Welcome to this Tuesday training all about fiber. My name is Ashley Anderson, registered dietitian, personal trainer, and owner of Move Fully Nourished, where we specialize in nutrition and exercise coaching to help active adults achieve stress-free, realistic, and sustainable fat loss using a mindful and intuitive eating approach. We help individuals with diabetes, autoimmune conditions, GI issues like Crohn's, celiac disease, IBS, disordered eating patterns, new and pregnant mamas, picky eaters, and your everyday exerciser looking to live their best life and the most fulfilling life through a sustainable, healthy eating habit changes. So today I am bringing the topic of fiber to you. And over the last few weeks, I have been discussing, well, I've talked about the top 5 things your bowel movements can tell you about your health. I've talked about probiotics, prebiotics, and today I want to tie all these topics together by discussing fiber in detail. So getting enough fiber is essential to a healthy gut and is required to help prevent or heal GI diseases like colon cancer, diverticulitis, appendicitis, and more commonly experienced constipation or diarrhea. It's important to include vegetables, high fiber fruits, nuts and seeds, and if your body can tolerate them, legumes and whole grains. And they're important for overall health and disease prevention. So first of all, what is fiber? So how do we define it? You've heard the word a million times. Dietary fiber is a non-digestible polysaccharide. That means it's a complex form of a carbohydrate, to put it simply. So it is what gives plants their structure. So think about plant cell walls, kind of defining that space. Fiber can be divided really into 2 general categories. So based on their structure and what they do in our bodies. The first is soluble fiber, and soluble fiber is viscous and fermentable and can help lower our blood cholesterol, among many other positive things. The second is insoluble fiber, which can help bulk up the stool volume and improve motility, so movement through our GI tract. Why this is so important is so that we can really, so that our body has a fighting chance to really detox and pull out the things that are not necessary in our body. Consistent bowel movements are very important. So we need both types of fiber in our diet. And within these general groups between the soluble and insoluble fiber, there are many other types of dietary fiber. So there is beta glucans, and beta glucans are found in baker's yeast and some mushrooms, some grains, and some seaweed. Beta glucans, or excuse me, the next one would be cellulose and hemicellulose. So this is, again, plant cell walls, especially plants with rigid structure like tree or bark or roots. The next one would be, we'll make her scroll down here. Okay, so fructans. Fructans is another form of fiber. So many vegetables and grains such as chicory, Jerusalem artichokes, barley, and alliums. And alliums are a group of really onion, leek, and garlic. They're in that same family. Gums like seaweed, barley bran, some tree saps and seeds, lignans, which are plant cell walls. Again, just relating back to the structural components that we talked about beforehand and what is fiber. Non-digestible dextrins are plant starches, and sometimes we see them in alternative sugars or alcohols or things like that. Non-digestible oligosaccharides, so this is prebiotic fibers like inulin, you might see this on a label, or fructo or galacto-oligosaccharides. So fancy terms, but really it just means inulin, and you might see, again, fructans on a label. And some are like the galacto-oligosaccharides are derived from lactose in the milk. So that's an interesting form of fiber you wouldn't think is there. Small portion in that product. Pectins. So pectins are naturally in our fruits like apples, apricots, our guava, citrus fruits, and the peels are a very high source of pectin too, so about 30% by weight. Polydextrose is another one. So this is where it's synthesized from dextrose, so a form of sugar, again, going back to carbohydrates, and combined with citric acid and sorbitol, it's used as a starch replacer in like commercial food products. And then resistant starches. And resistant starches have a very important role and a very important place and often aren't talked about enough. So I want to highlight them here. So this would be seeds, legumes, whole grains, potato, corn, green bananas. So especially if a starch has been cooked and then cooled, it has a higher form of resistant starch in it, which again is very high in fiber, so great for a prebiotic source for the probiotic bacteria within the GI tract. The typical American consumes about 15 grams of fiber per day. And mostly the other things are, or the reasons why that fiber intake is low is maybe because refined sugars are high, oil intake is high, dairy products are high, alcohol, and they contain no fiber, which can comprise someone's diet of about 48% of the diet, 48% of the energy in the standard American US diet. So how much fiber do you actually need? The Institute of Medicine recommends between 19 and 38 is most of the well-researched range, depending upon your age and gender. A low fiber diet, and I'll kind of talk a little bit more details in between the difference between kids and adults later on, but a low fiber diet is associated with many health problems, including cardiovascular disease, high blood fats or lipids. Fiber helps to bind and eliminate body cholesterol and fats that are unnecessary in the body. Cholesterol could be a whole topic in itself, but I'm talking about the bad cholesterol and the cholesterol that is small and dense. The LDL cholesterol that, if we're looking at the particle size, is very small. If you've never had particle size testing done and you've always had LDL cholesterol that has been higher, I highly recommend speaking with your doctor about testing for particle size, because you may have high LDLs, but they could be light and fluffy. But cholesterol, so that's, again, a topic in itself. What are some other things that are associated with a low fiber diet? GI disorders, cancers, poor bowel function. Fiber keeps the GI tract clean and can ease constipation and diverticular disease. So without adequate stool bulk, the colon will panic and respond with like excessive contractions. And this leads to the creation of diverticula, which are kind of like pockets or herniations of the mucosal layer within the colon, and creates really weak colon muscles and inflamed intestinal pouches. So definitely something you don't want to experience. It's not comfortable. And if you're in that scenario, then there are things that we can do to help improve that situation for you by slowly reintroducing fiber and then getting you more on a regular pace of fiber. Diabetes is another one. So low fiber diets are often associated also with diabetes. Fiber helps to control our blood sugar level. It helps to regulate insulin and also body fat. Also, speaking of body fat, so excessive body fat, the fiber can contribute to satiety, feeling of fullness, and dilutes energy density. So a lot of times it takes us energy to break down the fiber because it's non-digesting. And so the body uses it to help feed the good bacteria, and a lot of times can almost be like a negative form of energy in a good way, where it helps to keep you full, satiated, it's a lot of bang for your buck. And then blood pressure. So kind of talking before about the correlation with cholesterol and in general, just helping to reduce blood lipids and overall blood pressure. So what are the benefits of getting adequate fiber besides the opposite of all the things I just listed? Fiber can stimulate bacterial fermentation. So this is where a prebiotic fiber is the fuel for the colon cells. And in the large intestine, or passing through the GI tract unfermented, is where we really see the benefits. So since the GI health is synonymous to our immune health, fiber seems to play a really important role in our immunity. So keeping your body healthy, keeping you away from sickness, and keeping you running and doing all the things that you love to do. Consuming more fiber, so especially from like legumes, seems to help prevent type 2 diabetes. This is also likely to do, again, to the moderation of blood sugar and the insulin release. What are some of the other benefits? Fiber increases dietary bulk, so decreases energy density. So for those of you who are calorie counters, this would be caloric intake, and reduces energy intake. So overall, same thing. This is also helpful for 75% of the Americans who are overweight or looking to reduce body fat. More fiber also means more fecal energy losses. So since the GI transit time speeds up when we incorporate fiber, rapid GI transit leads to less time for digestion, absorption of nutrients. So this could be a problem if mineral intake is lacking. So if your diet isn't balanced and we don't have a wide variety of colors in your diet, and then all of a sudden you incorporate, this is like a temporary thing, but if you incorporate a bunch of fiber and minerals are lacking, it can actually, you can that absorption. So over time, you want to increase fiber gradually. So up to 32 grams of fiber each day, though, doesn't seem to diminish mineral balance in adults. So really, we're talking about really higher levels of fiber, or if you were completely depleted, less than 15 grams of fiber per day, and you added in a bulk, all of a sudden it would just be a little bit of a shock to the body. Resistant starches, like I mentioned before, like the cooked to cooled or the green bananas, they aren't broken down in the small intestine. They act as a fiber source in the large intestine. So legumes, going back to that example, are the big resistant starch sources, and nearly about 35% of legume starch escapes digestion because it's resistant to it, but it's a good thing. So American youth and adults are estimated to consume probably 8 grams max of resistant starch per day, but we really are looking to increase that level. So how do you go about making a change in your diet? So what can you do to start increasing fiber? So the first thing that you can do is eat more plants. You'll hear me say this a bunch, eat more high quality plants. Plant foods contain fiber naturally within their cell walls. The best sources are vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds. And then again, if you're someone who can tolerate legumes and whole grains, adequate fiber during use can also help reduce risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes. So fiber goals for kids, if children are 1 to 3 years of age, 19 grams of fiber. 1 to 3 years of age, 19 grams of fiber. And we talked about before, the average U.S. adult isn't even getting 15 grams. So those are the requirements for the youngins. Then obviously the requirements for adults are much higher. Children ages 4 to 8 are about 25 grams, so similar to some adult levels. And then boys, 9 to 13, so we're starting to get into more specifics of gender-wise here, 31 grams per day, and then for girls, 9 to 13, about 26. So you can see, obviously as you go up in age, you start to see those recommendations. So however, start slow, like what I mentioned before. Start slow with increasing your fiber, with increasing your daily fiber intake, because if you currently are on a 10, if you're currently on a 10 gram per day, and you increase it by, let's say, 5 grams every few days to allow your body time to adjust, that'll really be ideal. Because so fermentation of fiber and other non-digestible carbohydrates by bacteria in your colon can produce hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide gas. So this can lead to distension, gas, bloating, that type of stuff. So if you do it slowly, gradually, you'll reduce those symptoms and have a little bit more of a comfortable experience. And also allow your body a chance to make that adjustment so that we're making sure that your body is still taking in minerals at the same time that we're taking in more fiber. So many people are intolerant to some fibers. So I should mention this as well, like grains and legumes. There is evidence that lectins in grains and beans and legumes can cause health problems for some people because they can affect the lining of the gut. So there's a lot to be said about this topic too, but if you're worried about that or that is you, then what I would recommend is really, really soaking. So not buying canned beans, but buying fresh, let's say chickpeas, and soaking them overnight, soaking them, rinsing them really well, soaking them again, rinsing them really well, and then cooking them for a long period of time, almost until they turn to mush. And then see how your body feels when you have a serving, or even just like a quarter cup, and see how that feels. So there is also, though, on the other side, evidence that prebiotic sources such as inulin and glucosamine can help with inflammatory bowel disorders. So 2 things to kind of look up, inulin and glucosamine. If you have inflammatory bowel symptoms, you want to look over your fiber sources, and then we're aiming for a higher dose. So women aiming for at least 30 grams of fiber per day, and men aiming for about 40 grams of fiber per day. So this is really kind of going above the recommendations of about 38 grams from the Institute of Medicine. But again, this is more of like in a healing process. If you've had inflammatory bowel diseases, you're working your way up to that level. Also, make sure to drink enough water because, as I always tell my clients, where fiber goes, water flows, and they need each other, and you need both of them. So, if you are looking for help along your journey and assistance navigating through your nutrition changes to live your best life, head over to movefully-nourished.com to apply now for one-on-one nutrition coaching with our team. Again, my name is Ashley Anderson. It's been a pleasure talking to you more about fiber today. If you have any questions, you can always comment in the post below. Have a great rest of your day.